All right, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. First thing we have this evening is a public hearing for the Cuyahoga County Supplemental Grant Program, so I will turn it over to the mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant. Cuyahoga County receives Community Development Block Grant funding for each year directly from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The county makes these funds available to the city through a competitive grant application program and allows funding requests up to $150,000. The funds provide the city a viability by promoting decent housing and suitable living environments while expanding economic development opportunities. The national objective is to benefit low to moderate income persons or to aid in the elimination of blight. Specifically, initiatives eligible include community master plans, infrastructure, streetscapes, community and senior centers, housing and commercial demolition, public safety, parks and playgrounds, and other initiatives as outlined by 24 CFR 570. As part of the HUD requirements to qualify for this grant funding, cities are required to hold public sessions. Notice of this public session was publicized last week in compliance with HUD requirements, and the county recommends grant applications include comments from residents. So if you're unable to make this meeting tonight, please make your comments directly to me at kagallagher@brooklynohio.gov, or you can call me at 216-635-4221. So if anyone has any suggestions or public comments, please come forward. You can make them at this time for the Cdbg, or if City Council wants to add anything afterwards. Also, if you could please sign in on the sheets coming in as well. Lots of people coming forward. Let's give it one more minute.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Oh, someone else is walking in.
Okay, I'll kick it out to City Council.
I just have one question. What are some of the projects under consideration for the Cdbg grant?
We have nothing specifically, but Jack and I have talked about the possibility of using an application for the trail down in Lower Memorial Park, the repavement. Anything else? Okay. Also, at this time, I would ask members of the audience to come up and speak directly about the Cdsg, which is the Community Development Supplemental Grant. That began in 2017. Those are grants up to $50,000 to all communities in Cuyahoga County. These are similar to the Cdbg requirements as outlined above. They provide a little bit more flexibility. Previously, the city has used these to offer residents grants for exterior home updates. That's what we've applied for the last few years. There's no specific item that were outlined for next year at this time. We will take that into consideration again for next year. But if anybody from the audience has any suggestions at this time, please come up and make your remarks. Anybody on City Council have any comments about the Cdsg $50,000 grant?
Thank you, Mayor. All right, this time we'll go ahead and call the Brooklyn City Council meeting to order. Don, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Ron Van Kirk.
Here.
Meg Ryan Shockey.
Here.
Andy Silvers.
Here.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Belvier.
Here.
Kevin Tansky. Sue Grodick.
Here.
Thank you.
Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'll turn it over to Councilperson Meg Ryan Shockey for the opening.
Thank you. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I would like to have a moment of silence before we begin today's meeting in recognition of victims and survivors of domestic abuse. If you are experiencing domestic abuse, know that you are not alone and that there is help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. Now for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have the public session. If anyone in the audience is in the safe for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Ramser. I live in Brooklyn. I've lived in Brooklyn practically my whole life. I know this is long overdue.
Sorry, Mr. Ramser, could you just state your address for the record, please?
Forest Edge Drive, 4763.
Thank you so much.
Okay. This is long overdue, but I wanted to come and say thank you to Kevin Tansky. He did me a big favor, and oh gosh, it's been like a year ago now, and I really am sorry that it took so long to get here, but life happens. But thank you very much. In all the years I've lived here, Kevin actually did something for me he said he was going to do, and I am so grateful to him for it. And thank you too, Andy, because I know you were part of it.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, Victor Ardito, 7439 Outlook Avenue. Let's say, when they do demo this building, any chance they'll call like Habitat to see if they want the doors, if everything's, they're gonna scrap this. There's a lot of things, this podium, doors, different things like that they do take and they do resell. Because I've been, I pulled in the schoolyard donating the paper there sometimes. It seemed, big dumpsters full of some nice stuff. And I'd mentioned it to the school guy, whatever. No, we didn't think of that. So make it go, make it go to somewhere and somebody else can get something out of it instead of a dumpster. And then on the lighter side, I'd like to thank Biden and his administration for the hike in gas, natural gas, and electricity, and everything they've reversed. It's been great. Thank you.
Any other public comments? We do have some minutes for approval this evening from our last meeting dated October 12th, 2021. Are there any comments or questions on those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve, Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Silverts.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll now have reports of committees, commissions, and boards. We'll begin with the Finance Committee. We did meet this evening at 6:15 prior to the start of our committee of the whole meeting, as we do before all regularly scheduled council meetings, to discuss the following. Ordinance 2021-27 is on second reading. This is authorizing the capital improvement plan for 2022. The amount on this is $5,759,497. This is on second reading. We will have further discussion regarding this at our upcoming November 1st budget work session. That will take place at 6 p.m. in the Senior Center. Again, that's November 1st. The public is welcome to attend. Ordinance 2021-30 is up for first reading, but we hope to pass by suspension of the rules. This is to authorize an update to the capital improvement plan for 2021. This is an increase of $4,500, and this is for the Microsoft licensing requirements for the servers for the police station. Microsoft's fiscal year began in June. They raised their prices after that, which of course was not budgeted for from last year, so that increase is $4,500. And then ordinances 2021-31 and 2021-32. These are both TIF financing ordinances, and Mr. Rowan, our Economic Development Director, will give a further report on these when he gives his reports momentarily. That is all we have for finance. Again, that meeting takes place at 6:15 prior to the start of the committee of the whole, and it takes place right here in council chambers. This time we'll move on with the Recreation Board. Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. Silver Sneakers program has generated just under $250,000, $246,648 during the 10-year span from 2011 to 2020. Total amount for the months of January through August 2021 is $15,540. These figures are very good considering the challenges we all have experienced in the past year and a half. We expect next year's revenue to be even higher. The next rec board meeting will be held on November 15th in the rec center meeting room at 7 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Next up is the Planning Commission. Councilwoman Sugruder.
Thank you. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, November 3rd at 6 p.m. Several items are on our agenda. A request for letters graphic for an illuminated channel letter sign for Hibbert Sports at 47476 Ridge Road. A request from Elliott Signs for an illuminated channel letter signs for Five Guys at 4824 Ridge Road. A request from Wagger Signs for a wall sign for MMI Textiles at One American Road. A request for a universal sign system for a wall sign for GFS at 10820 Brook Park Road. A conditional use request for a religious facility in a retail business district for Bethany Assembly of God at 4630 Ridge Road. We will also be reviewing Cleveland American LLC and Holdings American LLC, which was approved for a conditional use for a wholesale business in a warehousing facility in a general business district at 0 Memphis Avenue. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Grow. Next up is our school board liaison, Councilwoman Belvier.
Thank you. The school is planning on updating their 5-year forecast in November. The schools are also working with Polaris students in building a new concession stands at the Brooklyn Stadium. It's a win-win situation for both the school and for the students. And with all the work that's going to be going on, it will be helping with pricing. It'll be so much cheaper for the schools to go with the Polaris, and the kids will learn the experience, and it'll be cheaper for the schools. So like I said, it's a win-win situation for them. The next meeting that they'll be having is November 16th. Thank you, and that completes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Belvier. The Committee of the Whole met just prior to tonight's council meeting to discuss the following. Ordinances 2021-20 is up for third reading and adoption. This is amending various sections of the codified ordinances to provide for the regulation of short-term rentals. We've had quite a bit of discussion on this, and this is the ordinance that was amended at our last meeting and is up and placed on second reading. It's up for adoption this evening, and that would again regulate short-term rentals, commonly referred to as Airbnbs, VRBOs, etc. Then up for third reading and adoption also this evening is Ordinance 2021-35. This creates Chapter 727, Commercial Security, to require large retailers to adopt the loss prevention security measures. And this would require stores based upon their square footage to have loss prevention inside of their stores for a certain number of hours during the week, again, based upon the size of that facility. And then lastly was Resolution 2021-36. And this is a resolution in support of a House bill that's currently before the U.S. House, House Bill 437. And this would amend the Ohio Revised Code to create a new section, the offense of postal package theft and declaring an emergency. This has to do with a lot more people getting deliveries from companies such as Amazon. And this would create, it would be a felony of the 5th degree if someone was caught stealing a package off of someone's porch if this bill were to be passed. And this is a resolution in support of that passage of that bill. In that, we hope to pass by suspension of the rules. That is what we discussed in Committee of the Whole. Again, that takes place immediately following the Finance Committee, right before our regularly scheduled council meetings. At this time, we'll have the reports of council. We'll begin this evening with Mrs. Ryan Shockey.
Thank you. We've wrapped up our community cleanups for the year. I hope to have final stats on the cleanups and the amount of volunteers at the next meeting, but we did end on a high note. We had roughly 40 volunteers at our final cleanup, mostly from Worthington Industries. And then we had some employees from Home Depot as well. In our final community cleanup that was in coordination with the Parma Ward 1 Councilman along Brook Park Road. Thank you to all the residents and the businesses who got involved this year. I want to thank our recreation department, especially Rachel Maria, for the great trick-or-treat event last week. It was so nice to kind of have the little ones practice for this coming weekend and see all the costumes, and thankfully the rain held off during our time outside, so thank you to them. And that ends my report.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Selhertz.
Thank you. A little bit following up on Meg's report. Once again, I want to thank Sean Bertloff and Jamila Rogers from Worthington Industries reaching out to us, getting the volunteers from their companies. When Meg mentioned about some wrap-up stats, we did have a total of 184 volunteers for this year. That included people doing the cleanups, that included some of the students doing the wall mural at Darby's. We spent a total of 705 hours together. We collected a little bit over 6,600 pounds of litter and debris. Even though we've wrapped up the season, we're still going to be doing one other project, and it's with Mr. Hare, with the high school principal. On Saturday, November 6th, we're going to be doing a leaf raking event for seniors in the Brooklyn community. So if you're a senior and you need some help raking up leaves, please give either Karen or Kathy a call at the Senior Center at 216-635-4222, and we'll see what we can do to help you on that. Bubba's Yard is tomorrow. It's going to be the last time for this year. It's over at St. Elias. It starts at 3:30. So, you know, if you need help on that, please show up. And two other things yet. If you need a free at-home COVID test, they're available at the Brooklyn branch of the Cuyahoga Library. Please call 216-398-4600. Call ahead, see if they're available. They'll give like units of 10 out to you. The reason they're asking for you to call is potentially if you do have been in contact with COVID or whatever, they'll come out curbside and put the test kits in your trunk. And then something on the lighter side, the judges will be out this Friday, the 29th, to take pictures of homes decorated for the Halloween contest, for the annual decorating contest. Please make sure to have your lights and decorations on. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up, Mrs. Pucci.
Thank you. Good evening. I just have a few quick reminders. First, Halloween is this Sunday, October 31st. So please use extra caution and be aware of and careful of all of our children that will be out trick-or-treating. Election Day is a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, November 2nd. The polls will be open from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. If you have already requested a vote by mail ballot and you have not returned it, please return it. The mail is taking a little bit longer than it normally does. I know as of today, there were 569 ballots requested and 352 have been returned. This past Saturday was the National Prescription Drug Take Back, and just a reminder that our receptacle for drugs is available 24/7 in the lobby of our police department. So you don't have to wait for these twice-a-year events that get advertised. It is accessible 24/7, just no needles and no liquids, please. And daylight savings time ends on Sunday, November 7th. So this is just a reminder to change the batteries in your smoke detector or your CO detectors. Or if you have the long-term ones with the lithium batteries, make sure you check the date because they do only last for 10 years. And then just to expand a little bit on what Mr. Selchert said about the COVID tests available at the library, as he mentioned, they are available curbside only. We have been going through them very, very quickly. But just so people are aware, these tests are a little bit different than the ones you buy in the store. You have to be able to log in and have a device with a camera. The instructions are very clear that you cannot even open the box to the test unless you're logged in, because someone on the other side actually views you taking this test. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bellevue.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Pucci for some of her ideas. Well, as I stated before, being a new grandma and being newly retired, I look for things to do to take my little guy to. And Ms. Pucci had suggested the library. Of course, I knew that, but there was a wonderful little class there that you were allowed to bring the babies, and through a special grant, the library had given you wonderful books and just how to interact with your infant. And I can only thank her for that. I'm sure it has something to do because she works for the library, but I've been a little bit rusty about things like that. So once again, thank you, Ms. Pucci, for that. There's also a mobile pantry that's going to be giving away free food distribution on Monday, November 8th in the library, in our Brooklyn library. It's all based on first come, first serve, and there's no registration. With all the scams that are going on, whether it's with the COVID or whether the unemployment, I can't stress enough how important it is to be aware and to be alert. I can share something with everyone that just recently happened to me. I don't know how it happened, but somebody had gotten a hold of my credit card numbers and put items on it. Fortunately, the credit card company was able to determine, and that it wasn't me. They saw my shopping pattern. But recently, we also had money taken out of a checking account, and we could never figure that out because we never do banking or anything online. So there are all kinds of scams. People are out there. You just have to be so careful. And we were told by the fraud of the checking company, the bank company, it was actually Citizens Bank, they said that people run numbers, and once in a while it'll hit, and I guess our number hit, and they took some out. But fortunately we were able to recover things, and it worked out to our advantage. So there's also a nice little flyer that's downstairs in our Brooklyn Police Department, and it mentions, protect yourself from coronavirus scams. You may want to pick it up. There's a number you can reach. Just be alert, be aware, be vigilant. That's all I can say. And also, I'd like to say that I'm always concerned about the snow coming. Maybe it's because I'm afraid of driving, but I just want to remind everybody that November 1st, as I said last meeting, till April 1st, we do have that parking ban, so please be aware of it. And last but not least, I did get my 3rd booster, and I feel wonderful. It didn't hurt. A little sore arm, but I don't know if it's psychological or what, but I feel so much more safer. So that completes my report. Thank you.
Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. Good evening. I reviewed the last tape council meeting on 10/12, and I found out some of the comments not clear to residents. There's been a lot of conversations regarding the Airbnb issue in Brooklyn. At the last council meeting, majority of council were not in favor of the ordinance to ban these structures in our neighborhoods. There were 3 council members, including myself, who were in favor of this ban. One thing that was discussed at the last council meeting was the car wash at the corner of Ridge and Bidoff, in which the committees denied them from coming into Brooklyn. Also, it was brought up that the distinction of denying the business of the car wash and the Airbnb was not the same. In one stance taken by council, the car wash was denied by the committee. On the other hand, the Airbnb ban issue was being decided by council. Here is the problem with this analogy. These committee members were confirmed by city council majority to do the right thing. And I believe not one council member had a problem with the committee denying that car wash business unless I missed something from council. Therefore, when I hear council members saying the committee made a decision and council did not, and yet council had no problem with the outcome, that simply doesn't add up. To summarize, city council members are the ones that confirmed these committee members that have denied the car wash. When I hear there's a difference in how one business got denied versus how we are handling the Airbnb issue, I just do not agree with that statement. Mr. Butler, I believe if anyone from the committee would deny a business from coming into Brooklyn, they are also under the same action to get sued. Is that my understanding?
Mr. Chair, when you say, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, may I respond?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Tansky, when you say committee, do you mean the Planning Commission?
Correct.
I suppose individual members of the planning commission could be sued if that's your question. But regardless, if someone took issue with a decision of the planning commission that was a final decision of the city, as opposed to a preliminary decision of the city, then it's more likely that the city would be sued.
Okay. With all due respect, I believe that City Council should share in some of the responsibility for the actions and decisions of these committees or commissions, in which Council confirmed. We are all in this together as a community, and many residents are watching this issue and the outcome of our decisions. I will be voting against Ordinance 2021-20, which has rules and regulations on Airbnb, since we don't have the additional staff to monitor these structures 24 hours a day. And with safety being the most important factor, I will not be supporting any legislation allowing this type of business in our community. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mrs. Graves.
Thank you. Just briefly, I would also like to echo my thank you for the Halloween Haunted Safety Town. The rec department did an awesome job. I hope this becomes a yearly tradition. In addition to it being so fun to watch the kids, I also heard the adults mention how nice it was to be together as a community. One teenager who actually was wandering through mentioned how he missed the fall gatherings of our community. And after questioning him, he meant our home days and our fall days that have evolved. So even our teenagers are missing the community gatherings. So it was great to be able to get together to celebrate with the children, and hopefully next year we'll be full on able to celebrate together as a community. That's my report.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. The advisory committee for the zoning update met this past week, and that is an ongoing process. We're only in the second stage of that process, which right now is the diagnosis and the outline. But there is a new website that's been set up to follow through this process. The website is brooklynohzoning.com, so brooklynohzoning.com. And zoning does not exactly inspire excitement among people, I understand that, but it is an important thing to do for our city going forward. And so I would encourage residents, it's very well put together. The mayor and their administration did a great job putting this together. So brooklynohzoning.com, and you can get all the updates as to where that stands. In regards to what Mr. Tansey said about the Airbnbs, I certainly understand where he's coming from, but I would just like to say that confirming someone to a committee does not necessarily mean that I will agree with every single vote that they take. I don't necessarily look at someone that way. It's just, do I think, are they qualified for this position? Whether I agree with every single vote or not is not the case. I mean, there's people that are sitting up here that I voted for on council that I do not agree with every single vote that they cast. So I understand where he's coming from, but it's not really a fair comparison in my opinion. Then also, I think Mr. Butler alluded to this last time, but the Planning Commission did not ban car washes in the entire city. The Planning Commission just did not permit the car wash at that particular location. This ban would have banned this Airbnb throughout the entire city. And as Mr. Butler mentioned last time, there are constitutional issues that are at play there, where if this were to be challenged, we would have to provide national research that says it causes home values to diminish, and per our research, no such thing exists. And so that was my reasoning for voting against the ban. I just felt like there were constitutional issues at play, and so I just wanted to clear the air when it comes to that. And I hope everyone has a safe Halloween. As Mrs. Pucci mentioned, please be careful now that it's getting dark in the evening and the kids will be out trick-or-treating. Please make sure that we're careful with the kids being around. With that, I will turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. I'm just going to add on to a couple of reports, just some tidbits. Ron touched on the website for the new zoning code update. You can access that link directly from our website, our normal brooklynohio.gov website. And tomorrow is the public meeting for the zoning update. It's the second phase. You can access that directly on the zoning website. It will be launched tomorrow, the Zoom code. And I've had one resident at least asked why we're doing it by Zoom. With what's going on with COVID, I mean, things are just up and down. We try to plan things as best we can, the comfort level of people so they can participate. That meeting will be taped tomorrow. It'll be interactive. You can actually post questions on there. But we realize the challenge with technology and maybe the void for some people. So we'll have a update of that information on our printed newsletter the couple weeks following that. We're going to try to reach as many people as possible with all of our different communication pieces, but this current one is Zoom. We're hoping that the third installment of our zoning code update is a hybrid, part meeting, part Zoom. It kind of hits the comfort level of everybody. This will be, that third phase will be the most important phase. It's kind of getting down into the nitty-gritty. And so if you're comfortable with coming to the meeting, you can come in person. If you're not comfortable, you can participate in more of a virtual sense. So again, we're trying to do the best we can with what's going on. We have to, change process to accommodate everybody's needs and wants. So again, tomorrow at 7 p.m., you can link through the www.brooklynohzoning.com to link onto that Zoom video at 7 o'clock. And we will post something on the social media to remind people tomorrow, and as well as it's on the city's website, link to that. Mrs. Pucci mentioned Halloween Sunday. The time for Brooklyn is 6 to 8. So you will see our police and fire department out there. Their presence is always out there every year. But 6 to 8, if you're interested, turn your light on to pass out candy to the kids. And then election day, Mrs. Pucci also mentioned, she said the numbers, that's really low for Brooklyn. We're looking at a low turnout if that remains that issues. We do have local issues. We have council races. We have school board races. So I encourage you to go vote. Vote for the people that you feel that represent you. Get out there, whatever your decision. It's just important that you get involved. I had been on vacation last week, but I had good news coming back. I heard we finally closed an easement so we can finish off the Rodone Trail extension. And so the Recreation Trails Program grant was delayed. We were relying on West Creek Conservancy to close an easement that took a lot longer than we anticipated. So we're going to begin work on the Rodone connection early next month, and we hope to have it done by Thanksgiving. And then we'll do the remaining work next year when spring rolls around. And on top of that, we have a lot of capital items planned with redoing the path down there, if passed by City Council towards the end of the year. So we'll see a completion of that whole project next year, which is going to be nice. But the immediate was, we realized there's a lot of residents that live along the Rodone area and those streets that access the park, and we want that access right now. So we're going to get that done next month, so I'm excited for that. And then last thing, Mr. Ardito, you asked a question. So as we go through the process, we will do something similar to what the schools did, like a gov deals, anything that's sellable, we'll go through and sell. I know there are certain aspects here that the architects would like to see us create some art pieces around, namely those doors in the back of the council chambers there. Maybe do something where we can integrate it into the new City Hall police station. And then when we do a demolition bid, which we're talking to the land bank about this, picking up the cost of that bid. Right now it's built into our package, but we may be able to get them to pay for the full $500,000 demolition. When they bid those demolition monies out, they factor those things in. They try to salvage as much as they can the contractors that bid on the projects. So that's typically part of that. That was done with Up to Bat and Speedway. We have first dibs on whatever we want to sell off or get rid of, and then the contractors try to do the same thing. The point is to try to get things out and repurpose them. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. We now have director reports. Begin this evening with our Finance Director, Mr. Magoo.
Thank you very much. Just one item from me tonight, just a brief review of the general fund financial statement through September. Overall, on the revenue side, revenues are 101% of the estimated initial amount. and 29% more than prior year, largely resulting in an increase in income taxes for the purposes outlined in the memo, consistent, very consistent with prior month reporting. On the bottom half of the income statement with the commitments, overall commitments are 70% of the budgeted amount, 3% more than prior year, very much consistent with last year, very much consistent with the prior months as well. We've allocated the full $558,000 in the American Rescue Plan funding that we received, shifted over to local fiscal recovery fund to pay for personnel from the public safety forces, as we discussed in prior months. We've also received our income tax distributions from RETA for October. Overall distributions are 9% higher than October of last year. Excluding the one-time payments that we received in 2021, overall distribution is 4% lower than October last year, mainly as a result in just slightly lower withholdings from prior year. Any questions from City Council? That concludes my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. And then lastly is our Economic Development Director, Mr. Rowland.
For my report, I'd like to touch on two pieces of legislation that are on the agenda this evening. They're both TIF ordinances. TIF stands for Tax Increment Financing, which is an economic development tool that allows the city to capture the incremental gain in property taxes over time on development and use that funding source to fund infrastructure around projects. The first piece of legislation is 2020-31. This is a TIF ordinance for the Avenue at Brooklyn, which is an 88,000 square foot convalescent hospital that's currently under construction. Last year, City Council authorized a CRA, which is a property tax abatement on this property. That abatement runs 10 years and is 100% abatement of property taxes, with the developer making the school district and the career center whole, so providing them the income taxes that they would have collected without the property tax abatement. The TIF ordinance will run concurrently with the CRA, starting in the same year. For the first 10 years, which is the life of the CRA, there will not be any property tax to collect with the TIF, but starting in year 11 through year 30, the city will be able to collect what is called pilot payments, which is payments in lieu of taxes, which will be generated and collected through the TIF. The infrastructure list for both pieces of legislation are the same and are found in Exhibit B. 2020-32 is a TIF ordinance for the new Amazon delivery center at the former American Greetings campus. This is a 30-year non-school TIF. I should say the previous one was non-school as well, which means that the school districts and the career center will collect all the property tax that they would have collected if there wasn't the TIF in place. For the Amazon, it's a 30-year non-school TIF. It can largely, the pilots will be used to support infrastructure projects along Tiedemann and Memphis that will support this project. And I should say that both the Brooklyn City School District and Polaris Career Center have both been notified of both of these ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Rowland. Appreciate that. And that's on first reading this evening. All right, that's it for the reports. We'll now move on with our legislation. The first item we have up is a request for a new liquor permit for Cracker Barrel Old Country Store at 5100 Tiedemann Road. Chief Melky has no objections.
Move for a position of no objection.
Second.
For a position of no objection, Ron Van Kirk.
No.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belvier.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-20 is up for a third reading and adoption. This is amending various sections of the codified ordinances to provide for the regulation of short-term rentals. Are there any additional comments or questions on this?
May I be recognized?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to, for the benefit of the public, I just want to repeat a request I made regarding this, and that is I'd like the city to track these addresses of the short-term rentals, and any complaint that we receive, whether it's something relating to safety with the police department or a complaint, a property complaint through the building department, and what the resolution was. And I'd like us to review that report in 6 months. Thank you.
Maybe recognize.
Yes.
We've talked primarily about Airbnbs and committees, and not as much in the public meetings that are on the videotape. Just for clarification, I think that's a good idea. As I'm the one who introduced the moratorium on this, so we could talk about this and a potential route of how to deal with these after a few of the complaints. I would say that it is difficult for the staff here to monitor these. And so I've put together a piece of legislation initially that City Council has tweaked that we could do as best we can, but the least amount we can do is, treat it where we could tax these Airbnbs and try to monitor them as best as possible. But I say that as best as possible because just like houses here that are rentals that need to register, we don't always know. It will come across some. Dawn, who's our building department secretary, will get the monthly list from the county. She'll review them, she'll check them. Sometimes things come up as our housing manager will go walking, but we don't always know. So we could try as best as possible, but we can't guarantee we will catch every single Airbnb. We can monitor, we can look for, and on top of the normal day-to-day stuff, but we will do the best we can. But this process, as I've said multiple times during these meetings, is not going to be 100%. The police are responding to these calls, and it will take a few times before some of these things come to light. Typical, I'm just being honest with people of how it works. We do the best we can, but a lot of this stuff ends up being reactive. It's not because we don't want to or we're not trying. That's just how it ends up going. So again, we can create a list, but we're going to do the best as possible.
And I understand that.
Okay.
I understand the challenges.
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
To adopt, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
No.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
No.
Kevin Tansky.
No.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Thank you.
The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 2021-25 is up for third reading and adoption, creating Chapter 727 Commercial Security to require large retailers to adopt a loss prevention security measures. And this is the ordinance I discussed earlier that would require, based upon the square footage of the establishment, having a loss prevention measures put in place for a certain number of hours based upon the size. Any additional comments or questions on this?
Move to adopt?
Second.
To adopt, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Thank you.
On second reading is ordinance 2021-27, authorizing the capital improvement plan for 2022. And as was mentioned in the Finance Committee report, we are still going to discuss this further at our upcoming November 1st budget work session. But as it stands right now, it's $5,759,497. Under new business this evening, Resolution 2021-36. This is a resolution in support of House Bill 437, which would amend the Ohio Revised Code to create the offense of postal package theft and declaring an emergency. Any comments or questions on this? All right. Introduce, we all suspend the rules.
Second.
Sorry. To suspend the rules, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
To adopt, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2021-30 is on first reading but hope to pass by suspension of the rules. This is authorizing the updated capital improvement plan for 2021. As was mentioned earlier, this is a $4,500 increase for the Microsoft licensing requirements for the server for the police department.
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
To adopt, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next two ordinances are sister ordinances, and these are the ordinances that Mr. Rowan just discussed a moment ago in his report regarding TIF financing for the convalescent home being built over on Idlewood, as well as the Amazon facility that's being built on Memphis. I apologize, the titles are rather lengthy, but we do need to read them into the record. Ordinance 2021-31 is on first reading, declaring the improvement of certain real property to be a public purpose pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5709.40B, declaring such improvement to be exempt from real property taxation, designating public infrastructure improvements to be made that will directly benefit such property, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, designating a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of such service payments, and authorizing compensation payments to the Brooklyn City School District and Polaris Career Center Joint Vocational School District, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2021-32, declaring the improvement of certain real property to be a public purpose pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5709.40B, declaring such improvements to be exempt from real property taxation, designating public infrastructure improvements to be made that will directly benefit such property, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, designating a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of such service payments, and authorizing compensation payments to the Brooklyn City School District and Polaris Career Center Joint Vocational School District, and declaring an emergency. That is all we have on our agenda this evening. Does any member of council, the mayor, or administration have anything they need to add? All right, before we go, just as a reminder, next Monday night, November 1st at 6 p.m., council will meet in the senior center for our budget work session. All are welcome to attend. Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed evening.